Hi everyone, I'm Eric Rodebois. This is 5 Minutes with Eric. Let's try and keep it to 5 minutes. And today I'm going to tell you about do-it-yourself estate planning. And one of the most classic mistakes that people make with do-it-yourself estate planning is they just try and put their kids on an account. So let me give you a story. Once upon a time, this young Indian woman came and I was living and working in Washington, D.C. And she says, I got this weird thing in the mail from my bank asking me to do all this foreign bank account disclosure information. And we're like, really, why? And that's a whole nother topic, by the way, foreign bank account disclosure. But we said, tell us your situation. She goes, well, my parents are Indian and they have all these big bank accounts in Singapore. And instead of doing a trust or instead of doing wills, what they did is they just added me as a joint account owner, right? So she's a signatory under the account. It was her parents' money. There was no disputing that. And as far as she was concerned, she never used the money. She never thought about the money. But in banking land, she was an owner of the account. Well, why would they do that? So when the parents die, the account would already be hers. It's jointly and severally her account. So there would be no need to call the bank, no need to get a lawyer, no need to do a trust, no need to do a will, no need to do a probate, none of the things that we have to do sometimes. And in that story, the problem was that the IRS considered that money hers, which means she should have been reporting it because it was in Singapore, whole nother story. But in real life, that is a very, very bad idea. Okay, not only did it open her up to all these banking IRS tax problems, but then what really happened or could have happened is, let's say that she had a car accident. And so now she has a creditor, someone's going to sue her, maybe the insurance policy doesn't cover the full amount, and so the creditors are now going to go after her personal assets. Well, remember that money in the account in Singapore is her parents', it's not hers. And nobody disputes that it's not hers. But under the law, it was a joint account, which means it is hers. So this is a very big mistake that we see. We see people titling assets, whether it's bank accounts or even houses, in the names of their children as a way to avoid having to do any of the planning or the probate. And so again, creditors of your children can take your assets away. So if you add one of your children to your house, for example, or you add one of your children to your bank account or your financial accounts, the creditors of the children might be able to take your assets away. And it would be a really hard argument to say that they couldn't. Now, what's the solution? Well, the easiest solution is most of the financial accounts have what's called a beneficiary designation. So instead of adding Elizabeth to her parents' bank account, they can just add Elizabeth as a beneficiary of the bank account. And if it's done correctly, that will pass outside of probate, it'll pass automatically, and it'll also pass outside of any other will or trust that they might have. Another solution, one that I use for my own personal life, is I created a trust and I made the trust the beneficiary of all of my different accounts. And so then when I pass away, all of my accounts will pour into the one trust bank account that we've already set up. We've already got the tax ID number, we already got the trust, everything. And then what will happen is my trustee will then administer. Now, that might be a little more complicated. Another example is we use what's called a life estate deed, where I can give my house to Elizabeth now, but reserve for myself the right to live in the house for the rest of my life. And then when I die, it automatically becomes Elizabeth's, right? That's so much better than giving it to Elizabeth now where we're both jointly owning it. And sometimes we can just have remainder beneficiaries on the trust. On the deed. So anyways, this is Eric Rodebois coming at you from EPGD land. Just remember, do-it-yourself estate planning has a lot of risks. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of the bad side. So before you do it, and maybe we'll tell you it's a good idea, but before you do it, go ahead and call a lawyer and ask them for good advice. Thank you.